It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on really sort of the dependency, or what I would consider sort of the cowardness of a malignant narcissist or a psychopath. When we find dynamics, really when you look at the personality disorder of narcissism, it's really typified by several hallmark traits, including sort of a pathological sense of self-importance coupled with a lack of empathy. So you'll get someone who's on a B line, a one-track mind, a singular thought, a singular goal, and it seems very narrow. It's really all about them. And so other people really don't realize that they are being then created as supply, which is only meant as a one-directional admiration of these individuals. So when we talk about that uncomfortable, or what you might feel, becomes the insecurity of the narcissist, really is that of cowardice. And people oftentimes fall for this, and then they, because of their ability to project blame, not take responsibility. We're talking about emotional matters. We're not talking about taking out the garbage. We're talking about emotional matters. It's, they might bring home the bacon, they might take out the garbage, but we're talking about a lack of, communication and reality with these types of individuals, who then use this cowardice or projection, if you will, onto others to take them down, really to cause pain and suffering. If you don't comply with their need for admiration, even when admiration is not due. In other words, especially if they have been mistreating, but yet they want you to always sort of give into the one-way street, which means, you're always paying them compliments, paying attention to them. It's all about them. It's like a runaway train, that really this narcissism, even though it comes across, I would say, as strength, confidence, they're the best, they're the number one, but underneath it all is usually a very insecure person, which is belays what you see is not what you get. So really, when you look at this and understand the narcissist relationship, it's typified oftentimes by their cowardice, which then creates their dependency on others to sort of placate their ego. It give them admiration, give them compliments, give them, and then, pretty soon your pile goes down, and then their pile goes up, and then they're still up to the same antics. And they'll usually use projection or false accusations onto others as part of this lack of emotional responsibility. They will not take responsibility because of their lack of empathy. They're always the best. They always are unassailable. They are not to be questioned. This to them is to be challenged, and a narcissist does not like to be challenged with what is known as the real. They're too good for that. They're too good for if people could make a mistake. They're too good to, come clean with their feelings, with their manipulation, with their deceit, with their mistakes. Instead, it all is mirrored back onto one person or others who they feel are genuine, or who have an ability to sort of live in the truth, or this sort of reality of emotional validation, where a narcissist is unable to validate you emotionally. It is because of their lack of empathy. You'll oftentimes feel that there's this tension, and the tension might make you feel fearful or cowardly. In other words, fearful of them. This is nothing more than manipulation. If they try to intimidate, throw their weight around, puff themselves up like a cat that's hissing, making themselves look bigger than who they are. I mean, big people sometimes will gain a lot of weight because they like to be big. They feel that they can intimidate and then take up a lot of space over others. So, abnormal people who or feel that they, need to be sort of bullyish because of their insecurity. They'll then have this outward shell, which can even include, I would say, if you talk to people like I have in insurance, and then they'll talk about things, and then, these people who can be morbidly obese and then had to lose weight because of an illness, they might tell you, in the course of of your interview with them, that they were more comfortable being big for some reason, that they feel that they have more of a presence. So it's very different with a lot of people, but we're talking about really an ego. We're talking about, where in narcissism, the cluster B, they have an excessive need for admiration and attention. Not healthy attention with give and take. They have a cowardness. They feel very insecure when others aren't mirroring back or stroking their ego. So they don't have this as an internal self-soothing mechanism. That's why you see, the narcissistic rage, the overreaction. They're freaking out. And then also assailing blame so that they can be unassailable, which means there's nothing, that they have there's no problem with them. Just like the golden child in a narcissist family, they can make every blunder, but they have done no wrong. And it's a projection because they're projecting, this golden, to this golden child, versus the scapegoat in that family dynamic, which is a well-known pattern of narcissist systems, that they do this in the workplace. It's just replicated. It's a pattern that gets more rigid with time. It does not sort of become flexible and open for discussion when you're in this sort of creating this dependency or cowardness unto others. So oftentimes they will assail or blame others, really who do have the courage to stand and face things and hold their space, but they will make sure that that person does not have that opportunity, knock them out, if you will, and instead use projection, denial, and false accusation to just sort of extricate themselves and make everything there the problem. So it's a very well-known pattern. And so I think this is a question sort of about the narcissist cowardness, is that they don't really have the courage to face unpleasant things. They're not willing to do the work. They are above that. This does not pertain to them. So it's easier for them to take it out on others. It's very easy to be hateful. It's very easy to make criticism. It's very easy to judge. It's very easy to ramp up in rage. It's very easy to, create bad headlines, jab, roll the eyes of people. And so, in other words, it's very easy to criticize while they're not really, they're seeing themselves clean and unassailable in the process. So they can never, ever have to be accountable or redeem themselves from any wrong. They want to appear perfect, unassailable, the best, superior, better than. This is all part of that mindset. And they expect treatment of this, even though they have mistreated you as such. So that really becomes the confusion, and oftentimes where the narcissists depend on supply, because they always need to appear as if, look good, come out on top. It has to be, there is oftentimes then a feeling of a lack of communication or heart to heart or a bridge with a narcissist. And this oftentimes is manifest in their inability to attach or bond with others. So a narcissist does have an attachment disorder where they have to bully, they have to push over, they have to be cold, mean, loud, aggressive, violent, emotionally hurtful, all these different things just to make their way and get whatever it is they want. So, at all costs, no matter who gets hurt. And oftentimes, the person of accountability, rather than just walking around with like a black cloud over you all the time, this is what they'll do. And then, because they need all the admiration, attention, and then can really, I would say, outdo themselves with an actor-like disposition. So in the narcissist dynamic, they are very much like an actor. If they don't have a stage, if they don't have an auditorium, if they don't have, the underlings, they don't feel good. They're not happy. So when a narcissist has, everybody watching them on stage and they don't have to be interactive or inclusive, they are at their happiest. They like that one track. They like that. In the flying monkeys, as is used so often in the literature, it's a pretty funny term, but everyone else who goes back, rather than living in the truth or the light, if you can go back to, the auditorium and then be an audience member and just complicit, comply, take the judgment, take the blame, take all the wrongs, you're the bad and they are, the heroine or the hero, and then all of a sudden you feel like your life is losing shape because you don't, you're unrecognized and unvalidated for your I am and your joy and what your gift and your truth and what you might consider your purity, and then your courage, because of this, gets ripped away from you. Your belief in self, your strength of self gets ripped away. Your self-esteem, your value of yourself, because it's not valuable. Because of the lack of empathy, they don't communicate that you are of value. So it can't really sort of live in others. So a lot of people oftentimes feel that they have been left out, cut out, like the Cinderella in the basement, or male and female, that they have been sort of shut away for some reason, and they feel that they must have some inherent flaw, but it's really just an act of cowardice, of being insecure, that the narcissist will use the narcissistic rage, the emotional, the smear campaign. This is very, very typical, where they will, assign blame to your character. All these different things are triangulation. We can discuss these in more videos, but a lot of you have already probably learned this by now, where they pit you against another and then you're always being compared as against. And so you can't be someone of yourself. You always have to be of something that they need you to be, and you cannot be yourself. So it's kind of like they are always needing other actors, where if you can be as if to them to appease them, then that's okay. But if you're yourself, you have these interests, you don't need to prove, and all these different things that they are involved in, their story. If you are, then you are devalued. You are not valued. You're not worth listening to. So they get very careless with other people and take advantage. And so that's where people, I think, find themselves feeling that they're in the audience of their own life, that they're not even invited to be on the stage, in the circle, in the system, in the you're just sort of, they will boot out any sort of what they can consist of as an obstacle. So if you don't mirror back their ego, the way they want things to appear, then your people then will live that lie, or feel that they were misled, and feel that they have lost a lot of their lives because they were always part of that elevation, if you will, and they didn't ever get validated for who they were, how they feel, what they have gone through, their own trials, tribulations, stories, all the greatness that you have to bring to the table. Oftentimes you feel goes unrecognized, unvalidated, is not seen or heard. We're talking about, basic human fellowship. We're talking about feelings of belonging, of fitting in, of being with like-minded people. So it's very difficult to be with a narcissist and feel you're with someone who is like-minded, because their whole operating system is banked and based on sort of toying with and getting from others. That's part of their mechanism, if you will. That's part of their grind. That's part of their insatiable need to have power and control over others. So if you are opting into that dynamic, it's just like you only have, not all the seats are up for sale, if you will. They're saying, oh yeah, I've got all these other seats, but we've got some here in the back where you can't really see, hear, participate, or know, but you're going to, and so then other people think that, well, from other, this is the best you're ever going to get. This is the best person, the best man, and so people oftentimes then underestimate their own goodness and then tolerate the abuse because they're buying into that story, that movie that's being played out. So remember, the narcissist, they always need, what do you call people who are just in the audience? They just need to be validated and looked up to, and they're the only one who has the show. So you don't feel that there's sort of an openness or a connection with these people. They want to always be the one who is the center of attention. It's very centralizing that this is what they do. So if there's any other sort of position, they will seek to decentralize that, move that out, get it out of the way. If anything, what they perceive, which is not often reality, they have a cowardness, so they perceive things through the goggles of a coward. They'll pounce on people, lash out, narcissistic rage, false accusations, not allowing people to be as they are or who they are. There's always something wrong with everybody else. I mean, if you talk to a narcissist, they will be sure to point out the flaws with just about everybody and anything if you are there long enough, including yourself. You're kind of in that same bucket, and you can never get out of the bucket. You never have any will of yourself. You're just only like little eyes that are looking out of a bucket to them. They don't see you as a full standing human being with your own perspective, truth, reality, needs, practicality, all these different things. These are not valued by a narcissist. It's not that they don't love, it's just that they oftentimes aren't able to connect in that way because of their cowardice. And they feel very uncomfortable when their ego has a crack in it. In other words, they're not appearing as perfect, that they're feeling human. And, for a lot of people, they would say, oh, finally, you're being human. But for a narcissist, this is a no can do. They don't like to, be seen when they're sick. They don't like to be seen when they're down. So they have a very private self, which is very fragile and delicate. And, and then I think that I really do feel then that because other people, if you have been in a relationship, you're oftentimes on the receiving end of a lot of blame, a lot of false accusations, a lot of insults, judgment, and criticism to an excessive, unhealthy degree. In other words, it does not stop. It does not change. You have no power to please them. The narcissist will always find fault and magnify it. This is just what they see. You will not feel validated, heard. You will not be able to feel that you can exist in a positive or a rendition of yourself that's defined by an I am, then followed by a positive. It's just like an emotional asphyxiation. It just is like all their ego needs to suck all the juice out. And they will not apologize for this. They feel that they're on the accomplishment route. They're on a beeline. They're, whatever. They can have all sorts of excuses, throw people under the bus. is with each person that they do, it elevates them more and more and more. So you can see where they sort of rise up in their own mind. But oftentimes, people see and know better. You do not have to be made a coward or a cowardness and by staying in this sort of relationship dynamic. A lot of people have been made anxious, feeling insecure. Namely, I would say the red flag of self-doubt, not seeing the value of yourself and thinking that it's an inherent shame of yours that you can, you will never make it. So there's this very sort of all encompassing, and like a viewer said, it's very oppressive. It becomes, I would say, very silly when you grow older and you're not acknowledged and validated for who you are. So the narcissist will remain very childlike or immature in that way. And so if you stick or in a trauma bond, you will be made to feel regressive and that pain and that triggered state, that anxiety, these uncomfortable feelings as a result of just sort of how they are. I mean, they have this insatiable need, and so let them be. I mean, this is who they are. Let them go after their golden ring, their golden egg, their steps on the boardwalk, their top of the mountain, their wherever, hang from the moon, hang from a star, lasso a dragon, whatever it is that they're after, let them lasso it. You do not have to be in accordance with that, and to live your own life. You don't have to be a mirror image of a narcissist. If you cannot be accepted and validated for who you are, that's going to be nobody's problem, especially not yours. Don't make it a problem to be yourself. This is where a real problem lies, is people, live under all this pressure and tension, to appease, pacify, and please the egoic needs of a narcissist. So people oftentimes feel that they can't earn things on their own merit. If they do, they can't own it, because the narcissist will sort of take credit for you as an extension of them. So they don't see and validate others. So people feel very unvalidated. Their feelings, needs, wishes, dreams, nostalgic past, what they've gone through, experienced, overcome, known. It's just erased. So a lot of people then feel erased, but don't fall for that tactic. It's a manipulation. It's a projection. And what I find is very interesting about the narcissist cowardice of projection is that oftentimes it's very identical and close to their insecurity. And when they are in their rage, it's because of their own insecurity. But they will put it on other people as if so, because that's how they see. They're just projecting their own insecurity onto others, so they can create a paranoia atmosphere. They can create a suspicious atmosphere where there is none. People feel like they're living on the set of an Amityville horror, and they just don't even know why. They're just trying to find some semblance of normalcy or basic foundational existence. But this is where the target is. It's in the brainstem. They will seek to corrode and disrupt that I am, which is part of your subconscious, which becomes very difficult because of the projection, people, and then the lack of validation of yourself. It really becomes sort of what people can feel, that they're not validated, that they're not seen, heard, supported as a full person. They feel pain that separates this. This is known as having a block. Having an emotional block, being shut off from. So it's that block you have to remove that is instilled from a narcissist. In other words, saying you might be the size of a 50-gallon fish tank, and they're trying to put you into a 2-cup saucepan. And that, like the law of the lid, you are not that small, inadequate, dumb, stupid, whatever sort of criticism that they have hurled on you. Usually there's a very precise inadequacy in them that is the source, the cause that creates the effect of the projection. And it's oftentimes very accurate as the projection. So they'll accuse you of the very things that they are guilty, insecure of themselves. So then people feel that they're carrying all this fear, obligation, and guilt, and they don't know how they got saddled up with it. All they know is they didn't have a boundary to stop it, and they're just carrying this along and trying to figure out what the heck is going on with me and my life. It's because oftentimes, like a viewer had so aptly stated, if you have the narcissist will impair your boundaries so they can then fulfill this very act. They'll impair your boundaries, and I feel your standards, because you don't have the ability to enforce. And they will do this at various stages of life where people aren't emotionally or mentally developed enough to have a boundary, especially, ages 0 through 7, then up through 16. I mean, most adults cannot support themselves for some time. It's very different than like the bird kingdom. Human beings, they need a lot of different situations before they can learn how to support themselves in this world, this economy, including not only emotionally, but being able to support yourself financially, all these different things that become part of being just an independent. So this is in the brainstem. This is up for like prime target for a narcissist. If they can get you on the bullseye of your subconscious and get you to feel and believe all those negativities about yourself, they're just writing themselves a superiority check. It's like a blank check that they can just keep going. I mean, and even though it's contrary to anything else, them and then all the flying monkeys that they have whispered in the ear of. I mean, this is deliberate. It's a pattern. Narcissist personality disorders, it's an ongoing pattern. It's an ongoing, pervasive, chronic, and enduring pattern that is not flexible. It is not, and they cannot change because they do not feel that they have done anything wrong. A narcissist acts out of that lack of insensitivity to others. They are not that inclusive of others. They're very exclusive, meaning you're only in if. So there's all these conditions, and especially in a family, with children. Oftentimes, young children of narcissist parents are only validated not for them being who they are, but only as an extension of the narcissist. So if you can act accordingly to their needs, follow in their footsteps, not say a peep, be an extension of them, and then look good for them, then you will then come out and be treated as a different way. You might not receive the projection, and then when you veer off, you'll find that the projection will ensue, or you'll see it exhibited in other ways on other people or other situations. And the role of projection for them is to alleviate them from any sort of responsibility, fear, or guilt. Or really responsibility, which is just the work to say, even though it's not, what they have done is impaired others' boundaries. So people then, cannot oftentimes feel that they can interact because of their impairment. So this is how, and then they'll project because people then cannot project. It's such an elaborate situation in many layers, because children don't have the ability to have boundaries. They need to be taught what boundaries are and how to create them. And then, as adults, if this is impaired or other situations, it then makes people very much a target of projection, where you feel that you're more in an audience with the narcissist being an actor versus having a real relationship. So I would say to understand that dynamic is to understand that the real you is not able to be appreciated, listened to, being treated realistically, or whatever situation. You are not given that opportunity. It's part of the narcissist pattern. They will not allow. things have to be according to their terms, the way they see things, even if it's not in, based on reality. People oftentimes do not then like to feel like a stuffed animal that the narcissist can put over here, put over there, and then be lied to, talked to, treated with harshness, or all the different things that are engaged in, that the narcissist is never held accountable for. The problem with narcissism, just like an alcoholic, they really thrive on what they can get away with. And that really becomes it becomes a lot of pressure for others, and it also becomes sort of dull and unattractive. So it's okay to not cater to the lure or the shine of that type of false shine of the relationship. Do not, know what you know that you know that you know, and allow that to be known to yourself and to cherish that, because truth will set you free and truth will reveal itself, and you don't have to convince anyone otherwise. You don't have to defend and justify. If people are defending and justifying, usually it's a projection of what they are guilty of. So other people end up, what I'm trying to explain is, you end up carrying all these negative feelings that are not yours. Get rid of those today and just let it go back to wherever the source from which it came, and let it be recycled by the bigger picture. You don't have to allow that into your B state. I hope you are able to understand and feel energized and feel lighter, and not knowing that you have to be contained or made small through the self-limiting beliefs that the narcissist will have you. That is the oppression. So get rid of that oppression. Know that it's nothing more than a tactic of manipulation, and part of their flawed thinking, and part of their coping mechanism. Do not be an object of someone else's coping mechanism. Have a beautiful day. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony. I hope these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Have a beautiful day.